Whew, man, it is tough when you get difficult phone calls, which is what I just got. And thank you so much for everybody who is joining me on a replay of this 2022 March real estate market update in Fort Collins, Colorado. And for those that might or might not be joining me live, appreciate you coming and having a listen. Anytime, if you have any questions during this live recording, definitely feel free to comment. I will do my best to answer to the best of my ability. And then for those of you that are watching this on replay, definitely, there are specific areas or questions or concerns that you'd like answered. Feel free to leave a comment and or send me a text message, email, or a phone call. Honestly, we're working with people from across the United States, moving here to the United States. And one thing we have found is that each place is ran differently. Real estate is ultimately very, very similar, but whether you are closing in a state that requires an attorney closing or a post-closing escrow funding state, Colorado is unique, as is Fort Collins. So definitely ask questions, and I'm happy to answer to the best I can. But getting back into that phone call that I just received, the market is extremely hot. Definitely, you've got to be under a rock not to know that. But there is still some sanity within the market. Some homes are still sitting. Some homes are being negotiated under list price. But definitely the majority of homes are being negotiated above list price. And we'll jump into some of those numbers here shortly. What's up from Brazil? Very cool. I actually just closed with some clients from Argentina. And they were some of my favorite people to work with. And I am working with some clients that are moving here from California that are originally from Brazil. And they're going to rent probably for a year and then maybe buy. So thank you for joining and watching. But the real estate market has some sanity remaining in it. We are under contract on a listing that the inspection came back and there is an issue. So we are going to have to deal with that. Fortunately, I'm working with some phenomenal sellers and people in general. So we will make sure to do it right. And if these buyers continue, great. If not, we will be putting it back on the market and hopefully leverage this really hot and fiery market. But from there, I'm also I've had 3 conversations with sellers in the last 5 days, a couple $1 million plus properties, and then $500,000 price properties. So people are really, really considering if it is a good time to sell and or buy. People are really trying to figure it out. And I think this video, I will try to give as much information as possible, maybe give a little advice at the end, but this will be jam-packed with what is happening specifically in Fort Collins, Colorado. So let's jump into it. All righty. So the median home sales price in Fort Collins for a single-family detached house as of the end of February 2022 was $600,000. Yes, we have touched $600,000. Now, that was just over 100 homes that have sold in Fort Collins, and we've got currently 116 houses pending, 116 houses that are in pending sales in February, comparatively to 150 in 2021 and 166 in 2020. So the inventory is having an impact on how many homes are selling. There's just barely anything on there. This morning I looked at single family residential detached houses that are on the market, currently on the market, that are not new construction, and it was 33 houses on the market. We are a population of 175,000 people, and historically about a 64 to 65% home ownership rate is where we're at. So 65% of that 175,000 people should be living in a home that either they or their partner or their mom or dad own. So that being said, percentage of list price. For the month of February, we were at 102.5% of the sales price versus the list price. So if a home was on the market for $100,000, or $500,000, let's say, it would sell for on average about $512,000, which is about 102.5%. So homes are still going over on average 102.5% above list price. Now, over the last weekend, I saw it closer to about 5% of the homes that have sold over the last 30 days. Of the most recent homes in the last weekend, Thursday through Sunday, was closer to about a 5% premium with an average price of around $620,000. So take that for what you will. And that's based off of 28 home sales. So it is definitely a hot and fiery market still. Inventory, 0.3 months, nothing changing there. It's been 0.3 months for the last 3 months here in Fort Collins. Hopefully we get this spring selling increase, but what we're really seeing right now is this winter buyer demand surge because interest rates have increased. And we'll jump into that here in a minute. Pending home sales, as we spoke, are down a significant amount, 26% versus 1 year and 30% down versus 2 years ago. And then new listings, again, they're also in line with pending home sales, 26% down from last year and 30% down from 2 years ago. So we are definitely in desperate need of new listings. And home construction is just still not able to keep up. But whether that was from all of this kind of shitty weather that we've had, really besides this week, over the last 4 weeks or so, that has hit right in the middle of the week. I'm talking like snowstorm on Wednesday, every week for the last like 4 weeks, and some delays. Fortunately, the houses that are through drywall and interior fixes and work being done, they can continue to be worked on. But there's no real digging when you've got a snowstorm that's dropping 6 inches or you've got negative 10-degree weather. So they're doing a great job. They're doing the best they can with what we're given here in Fort Collins. Fortunately, again, we had this amazing fall at the end of 2021, but we are definitely having a kind of crispy winter that is a little frustrating, to say the least. So what are some so those are some of the housing statistics. Oh, real quick, price per square foot up significantly from $217 a foot in January to $245 a foot in February. So right close to $250 per square foot is the median price per square foot. So we are seeing an increase, and a lot of that could be driven from houses that are of smaller square footage, taking advantage of that median price point, which is pushing up that price per square foot. So take that for what you will, but definitely our price per square foot has popped significantly from $217 to $245 per square foot. Now, you can get on YouTube, and which I do myself. So thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys, and all your guys' comments are greatly appreciated. Really appreciate you guys watching. Sorry, I just saw a comment. What about for new university students got accepted into Colorado State University and wanted your input? Now that's a question for, are you looking at renting? Are you looking at your parents or you buying an investment? But either way, I'll give it to you both. Renting, we actually just put out our renewal rates for our portfolio of rentals. We have about 30 or so units that we send out that we either own and or manage. And we're seeing about an 8 to 10% on renewal rates. We're seeing anywhere between, there was an average of about $1,700 for a 2-bedroom, 900 square foot apartment in Fort Collins. So it's pretty crazy. That's about $850 per square or per bedroom. I was at more of $650 to $700 per bedroom on average, but we are seeing that definitely increase. So for our tenants that we really, really like, we are increasing rents from 8 to 10%. And really, that's not because we that's not because we want to, it's because we have to. Our insurance, property taxes, and the cost to replace items, repair items, appliances, water heaters, carpet, paint, everything across the board is going up. So we have to stay solvent and profitable for us to be able to effectively manage these properties. The last thing that I want to do, or I hope that any landlord wants to become, is a slumlord. So that being said, on our renewal rates, 8 to 10%, But when those things hit the market at that point, we will leverage what the market is bearing for those units. And we're seeing anywhere from a 20 to 30% increase in our rental rates. So rentals are very, very aggressive, and low inventory on those as well. For investment properties for parents, the returns are not very sexy, but if you are on a long-term hold and you have a student that's going to be living in there for the next 3 to 5 years, I think it's a great investment. I think it's something to where you're going to have to be paying for housing anyways. Why not hopefully have a responsible son or daughter living in there that can pay rent and have roommates that are going to also be paying rent to offset that mortgage. So kind of my 2 cents on the CSU student housing, if that helps answer. Now, again, kind of getting back to all of these different ideas and pressures, you can get on YouTube and find really whatever information you want to find. You could search, and if you have a tunnel focus of you want to find why the real estate market is going to crash, you can find all the information you want on that. If you want to search and find out why the real estate market is going to go up another 15 to 20%, you can easily find that. Zillow just reissued their forecast for the year, thinking that at the end of 2022, we will see a 17% appreciation on existing home sales. Then you can go talk to RE Venture, which I do like watching his content. I don't believe in half of the things that he says as far as a crash, but it could absolutely happen. And his suggestion is between interest rates increasing and the eviction ban lifting and tenants not being able to pay, record high delinquency rates, that there could be this, his favorite root is deluge, and I kind of like it as well, so I will use it. There could be a deluge of properties that hit the market. And there was an article from Business Insider that recently came out that suggested that second homeowners, people who own a house, let's just use a buddy of mine who owns a house in Arizona, or investors who may have just bought in the last 2, 3, even a year, have enough equity with interest rates increasing, pressures on rentals increasing, that they might just sell. And the question is, well, what about capital gains? Well, let's just take Fort Collins for example. If you would have bought a house in 2000 and at the beginning of 2021, where the median home sales price was right around $515,000, and you had a 20% appreciation, or let's just use simple numbers, $500,000 beginning in 2021, 20% appreciation up to $600,000 in 2022, and you have to pay 20% capital gains, you're still walking away with a net gain of $80,000. At that point, who cares about paying taxes? I had a buddy call me, and they were looking at buying a second house in Florida. Want to know my opinion on a 1031 because they were already under contract. So we talked about a reverse 1031 and what those options are. But my suggestion to her was, and this is not necessarily the best financial advice as far as trying to keep as much dollars in your pocket as possible, but I said, you bought this place in 2019. You're going to walk away with $150,000. Currently, you're projected to walk away with $150,000 of a net gain. And we're worried about paying a 20% capital gains tax. Yeah, that's a lot of money. But also, generally speaking, I sold a house from an investor who has owned it since 1970, owned it free and clear, bought it for I think, $30,000 or something crazy. And from 1970 to 2018, when we sold it, the property's value went up to $450,000. In 4 years time period, it went up 50% from there. So is it fair that that seller who owned it for 50 years got a $400,000 gain, or the person who's owned it for the last 4 years owns it and has a $200,000 gain? So if we're really getting, I mean, honestly, like, last thing I want to be is greedy. And so if you got a $200,000 gain in 40 years, sell it, take the taxes, who cares? I mean, yeah, obviously if you have an opportunity for a 1031, great. But that's something that the market is suggesting could be a possibility, is that second homeowners and investors potentially sell, and there could be this increase of properties coming onto the market. Investors, because they have this huge gain, but also potentially for rents that aren't being paid. So who knows what happens there. The loan forbearance foreclosure wave is not happening. Originally, we had about 5 million people took for loan forbearance. We are currently at around 600,000, of which that 400 or 4.4 million people, only 1.3% are going into deed in lieu of or having to do some type of payment plan. So we're close to 99% of people are either able to put the loan on the backside or payments on the backside or sell their property because they have so much equity, but there is not going to be this foreclosure wave. Interest rates. Interest rates are definitely a topic of concern for everybody and something that could decrease the amount of demand both on and decrease the desire to sell. Because if you just refinanced in the last year and you have a 2.7% interest rate and you've got to sell, is it that attractive to you if you're going to have to buy at a 4.1% interest rate? Maybe, maybe not. Also, with the people that are under contract, I've got 2 of them that are very, very concerned right now that we close in the next 6 months or so. And the interest rates when we went under contract were close to 3%, and now they're closer to 4%. Well, their payments have increased anywhere from $400 to $600 per month. That's pretty significant. So this interest rate dilemma, you wouldn't say fortunately for any amount of time in the world, but right now there is this war going on between Russia and Ukraine, and currently it has kind of put a halt to interest rate increases. But we do have a meeting by Fed Jerome Powell to discuss Fed rates and potentially an increase or keeping them the same. So we will have to watch that and see what that does. But the 30-year fixed mortgage has gone from 2.7% just a few months ago to now about 4.4% to 4.1%. So definitely something that is causing some concern in the market, especially when you have a 6% month over month increase from $563,000 to $600,000 for a median sales price in Fort Collins. Couple that with a 1% increase, pretty significant. Last thing that I kind of want to talk to you guys about is new construction is not able to keep up, and that's continuing to have pressures with the lumber tariffs, fires, labor shortages, and then you have Target coming out and saying that they're going to increase minimum wage from $15 to $24 in certain geolocations, which those now people who are working in construction could look at themselves and say, I could be making $25 per hour working construction, sweating, freezing, or I could go work and at Target inside stocking shelves for $24 an hour. I'm going to go do that. So lumber and construction and new builders are going to have to increase their wages to make it a reasonable increase from that Target minimum wage for them to continue to want to work there, which then increase the cost of the house, which then gets pushed onto the new buyer. And so there's kind of slippery slope. And which again kind of leads into inflation. Cost of houses, cost of everything has increased just across the board. Going out to eat, I've felt it immediately as far as how much, because that is one of the indulgences that we do, is we go out to eat a fair amount, and man, it has increased, and don't see that slowing down anytime soon. So what does this mean for Fort Collins and the Fort Collins real estate market? Again, you can find out find out the exact information that you want to know. If you want to see that there's going to be a crash, then you can go find that information. If you want to see that the market is going to go up another 20 to 30% because you just bought a house, you can go find that too. Now, what I think it does, if there are to give you advice, is what are your goals? Are you wanting to buy a house? Are you wanting to rent? Do you want the flexibility? Do you want the risks? Do you want the frustrations of buying a house? Now, I would say if you are going to buy a house, I would increase my time horizon there. I used to say, buying a house, you should be there at minimum every, 3 to 4 years. You might increase that now from 3 to 4 years to 5 to 7 years minimum that you plan on staying in this house, so that you can pay down the mortgage enough, the principal, maybe get through this, a recession if that happens, a housing crisis, or we continue to see 15, 20, 30%. Because if you get in there and your time horizon is 5 to 7 years and you happen to see another 10% a year of appreciation or 15%, you can make those decisions at that time what you want to do. You'll have flexibility. But if we do see this decrease, where in Fort Collins, when we had the housing recession, we had a 0.5% decrease and a 2% decrease. Well, now granted, it could be much, much worse than that, who knows, or it could be and not even that. So But if you have a horizon of 5 to 7 years, I think you survive that storm, pay down a mortgage enough, see appreciation in those other 3 to 5 years, and get through it. So my suggestion is to increase your time horizon if you are looking at buying in this market to, instead of 3 to 4 years holding, 5 to 7. The last thing that I would say is do not try to time the market. I think it is a fool's game. Yes, you can look back and I would say in my career, I always talk to young investors who are asking me for advice. I say, I wish I could say I was smart. I just was really, really lucky on when I got started. I bought my first fix and flip in 2009. I bought my first investment long hold or another flip in 2012, and then started buying long-term hold properties in 2013. Yeah, it wasn't the absolute prime time to buy, but it was really pretty close. And I was very, very fortunate and have been very fortunate to do that. But I didn't know what I was doing. I just thought that was the right move, and I was working really hard, and I'm very happy that I did. But 2 years later, in 2015, I believe it was, I reached out to one of my good buddies, and there was a house on the market. I said, let's partner on this. You live in it. I'll go on the loan with you. We'll buy it together. And the comment was, man, the market's too hot. I think it's way too hot. I just don't want to buy in a market that could crash. And I said, okay, no problem. Well, 4 years later, it was, that house went from $270,000 for sale, and it sold 3 years later or 4 years later for $470,000. So there was a $200,000 increase on that home. And I did send it to my buddy and said, man, we missed out. And it was definitely rough. But I wouldn't ever try to time the market. Take into consideration all factors. What is the local economy like? Population growth, interest rates, the price that I'm going to have to pay, the down payment that I could put down. Does my time horizon with work with this? Is my contract 2 years? Do I have to renew it and maybe get another 2 years? Or does 5 to 7 years work? Those are all questions that I would have. And if all of those things check the boxes, and at the end of it, you still come to the bottom of it and say, I want to buy a house, then buy a house. Do not think to yourself, all of these items check the box, but what if there's this market crash? And how are you going to know that when the bottom is the bottom? Do you think it's going to continue to go up? Or are you going to miss that and then continue to hold? So, try not to time the market is what I would recommend. Follow your goals, follow your intuition, your gut, reach out to people that you trust, whether that's a real estate agent, a lender, your banker, your financial advisor, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, whatever that might be. Reach out to those people, get their input, come to a conclusion, stick to it, fulfill your plan, fulfill your goals, and go from there. And hopefully, looking back, it all works out. So I don't know if any of you guys have any other questions at the moment. I definitely appreciate the 2 questions that I did get. Hopefully, they were able to answer. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching these live market updates. Hopefully, they're somewhat informative and neutral to a certain extent. I am a licensed real estate agent for my own brokerage here in town. So if you are considering buying, selling, or investing, love the opportunity to talk to you, at least maybe work with you. But otherwise would love to answer any of y'all questions in the comments below. So give it a like, maybe subscribe to the channel, and we will see you on the next video this coming Friday. All right, guys, take care.